Welcome to this session. I'd like to discuss here something that really is puzzling me. We started out healing ourselves using frequencies, and we found eventually we ran into a wall. They didn't help anymore. Then we went to symbols, and finally we've gone back to combining them, and we've decided the combination is much more profitable than using them separately. Let me talk about the symbols by themselves to begin with. I started producing them using a little drawing program on my computer. We have a wonderful situation in our world today. Anybody can do it. You can do it. I can do it. You can draw a circle and put a Jewish star in the middle of it and a triangle, equilateral triangle. There's lots of drawing programs out there. Humans have never had that capability before. What capability? Well, I don't know. These are the same symbols, or very similar, to the ones that the Freemasons have always looked back to. They were the ones the Scottish Rites have used. One of them is on the back of the dollar bill. These seem to have some importance. The Egyptians used them. They show up in these weird crop circles. You don't know what a crop circle is. If you were a farmer growing your crops near the Stonehenge assembly of stones in Great Britain, these farmers have a problem. Nobody knows how it happens. All they know is the crop will be bent over and unharvestable in a pattern that looks like a geometric, like circles or tetrahedrons or some such pattern, and the photographs of them are pretty common. Here are some interesting facts about them. The grain stalk is bent over. It's never cracked. There are never footsteps, or there's no evidence of how anybody gets to them. Now, some people have admitted to doing it, but they haven't explained the fact that they seem to be using geometry that's never taught in the schools, and in fact was not really understood very well until people began to ask questions about the crop circles. How'd they figure it out? There's some, don't know. Anyway, these same symbols seem to be the ones I'm using, comparable to that. And I will say this. I've noticed that my body reacts much better if they are drawn with just the absolute ultimate precision I can produce on the screen in front of me. If the geometry is slightly skewed, they just don't work. So if you try it for yourself, be willing to experiment and be sure you're getting the really right geometry. It's taken me some time to do that. Okay, so what are they for? I think they show the body the difference between right and wrong and where to apply it. Right and wrong, this man is saying. Right and wrong is just the golden rule. Well, when we're dealing with a community of 50 trillion cells, and we define right the way we created ourselves as infants, that's the trouble. It's never quite so simple. For example, you're designed to need 8 hours of sleep, right? Okay, well, that doesn't take into account that you've got twins to take care of, you're working 2 jobs, you've got contracts to deal with. When you get 4 hours of sleep a night, you're doing well. And if your body objects, tough. That's all the time you've got. Now, does that apply to you? Maybe not. Maybe some other things that are quote-unquote wrong apply to you. Maybe there's an environment with a boss that you've got to cater to when you feel like slapping him in the face. Or there's some people that you see what I'm saying? What does it mean by right and wrong? The key issue is, how do you define what really must be right. I think that's what the diagrams are for. The diagram says, this is the context I'm working on. This context must be right. I know you've been working with me as a diabetic and it's been pretty successful. Now it's got to be right, and there are no compromises allowed. I think that's what it's for. Okay, second, what are the frequencies for? I think the frequency is an unequivocal order to a parasite to cease and desist operation. Now, I'm assuming here a model. This model says that the parasite either is or believes it is in the body by invitation to do a job that the body cannot do on its own. And, well, it's alive and it wants to take care of its own and it wants to build and all of the usual stuff for any living object. So it wouldn't be too surprised if it makes a big point of saying, you need me. Well, if the frequency is in fact the order to shut down, what this does is put the parasite on order and say, you've got to prove to me that you're needed. Otherwise, you are going to shut down and that's it. And that's fine. Now, my own diabetes is clearly a case very similar to this now. But I'll talk about that in the next session. In any case, it's clear that if I define this context has the highest priority, it must be right. That's right exactly where you, Mr. Parasite, have placed yourself. And this is an order for you to shut down. Would be a much more powerful point of view than just saying, shut down. And I think that's the justification that the frequencies and the symbols used together are a lot more powerful than either of the pair used separately. Thanks for being with me, and we'll talk again. Bye now.